Hello, welcome back to the Bet's Run Coach channel. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. I've got no guests, it's just me sitting here telling you a story. So whether you're, doing the washing up, doing the tea, chilling out at night, just want something to just soothe your ears, then this is the video for you, if you're into running. I do apologise about my accent. I know I've not got one of those radio-savvy accents, but I'm sure you'll get used to it, and I'll try my best to deliver this in a nice, calm manner. Right, so the story today was a completely unique experience I had over 10 years ago. There's two stories that run alongside. There's the experience that started and finished in 2015, and there's a narrative running alongside that in the present day as well, which is why I'm always reminded of this story, because I see the protagonist of this story, the main character of this story, a couple of times a week. So let's get into it, eh? So I'm going to start in the present day, and I'm going to change the name of the main person in the story because I've not spoke to this guy for 10 years. I don't know if he really wants me talking about him on a podcast, so I thought I'd do the respectful thing and not mention his name. So for the purpose of this story, our main protagonist is called Josh. If you really want to do your research, I'm sure you'll find out who he is. Now, as I said, this guy must live 800 metres away from me because I see him a couple of times a week and he looks nothing like what he used to look. And I think he's been through it a lot since this story and since this whole challenge that I'm about to tell you about. I think he's still struggling with that mentally now. And this is the main dilemma of the story, really, is that I really would love to stop and chat with him. I was a big part of his challenge that was, going to change his life forever, potentially. And I got asked to be part of this team, and I'd just love to chat with him, ask him what he's doing now and all that, but something stops me from doing that. I have a feeling he doesn't want to be reminded of his past, and I've seen this guy was so close to asking him. He doesn't seem to recognise me, or he's just not caught on that it's me. There was one time where I was out, in the town that we both live in. I saw him and I was like, do I just say to him, like, how are you doing or anything? But something stops me from doing it. I just feel like he wouldn't respond positively, that this is just my feeling, that he wouldn't respond positively about talking about his past. So, as I said, this story starts in 2015, okay? And I'll set the scene as to what I was doing at that time in my life. I was, 2015, I'd just finished uni, or I was just about to finish uni. I was about 20 years old, 21. I was running 800 metres, 1,500 metres on the track, running for Sale Harriers. And I also worked in a running shop on a 0-hour contract in Chorley Town Centre. Well, I say town centre, just outside of Chorley. In a David Lloyd Next Generation Centre, it used to be called then. It was a nice little job, this, It was fun. I met some great people, including Josh in the story as well. That's how we met. But it's a lovely job. We're just selling running shoes, running insoles, T-shirts, hoodies, all the running stuff. Sweatshop, if you look it up. I don't think it exists anymore. It was one of the UK leading running shops at the time. They were everywhere, but they've just fallen off now. I guess they'd be the equivalent to a Run Northwest now, something like that. And what was so beautiful about that job was people were really interested in running. They had run clubs that would go from there. People really valued me at the time because I was sort of a sub-elite runner, and that was quite cool for them to have somebody on board that was running fast on the track, So I felt like I had a lot of respect at that job. The hours weren't great, the money wasn't great, but I was just a young lad, just about finishing uni, deciding what I was going to do next. Because the shop was inside David Lloyd, you got a free membership for David Lloyd. If anyone knows anything about David Lloyd gyms, they're expensive premier gyms. So I'd be on this 0-hour contract, but I'd have £120 a month gym membership, and it was brilliant. Like, huge pools, huge tennis courts and all this. And this is where I met Josh, you see, because Josh had then joined Sweatshop as well, and we got talking and I got learning about Josh a little bit. At the time, ultra marathons weren't as big of a thing as what they are now. You feel like everybody's doing ultra marathons now, and maybe that allure has kind of died off a little bit. But back then, not many people were doing these crazy distance challenges, but Josh was right into this. This was his thing. He'd been in the army, and he just loved challenging himself for building money for charities and building a bit of a name for himself as a ultra marathon runner or ultra distance runner. And, we'd work for hours on end. Sometimes there'd be no customers, and I got to know Josh really well. He got to know me really well. He had a respect for my running. I was just fascinated by why he would want to do these crazy challenges. One of his challenges Karnazes was to run 18 marathons in 18 days. And as I said, that was 10 years ago. That wasn't really a done thing. Not as many people were into that ultra marathon scene. So it was quite fascinating. And, he'd ask for tips from sort of the sub-elite side of the running, and I'd just be interested to see like why he could be bothered to do stuff like that, really. But he was a nice guy and I got on with him really well. Because I had that David Lloyd membership, sometimes I'd go in after work or before work to the gym and do my, 30-minute run on a treadmill or a cross trainer or elliptical machine or whatever. And I'd just see him with a big rucksack on, and he's covered in sweat, and he'd been running for hours and hours on these treadmills, So we just had this little friendship going on, in the most unlikely circumstances, really. And he was just a cool guy. I just thought he was interested and fun, and we just had a good relationship. Now, during that time, 2015, would have been the time that I would have gone to America on a scholarship. That would have been in that summer. I would have decided to do that. I remember deciding very late that I wanted to go to America on a scholarship. I don't think my running was going too well at the time. I think I'd come towards the end of the season and it hadn't gone very well. If you watched our last episode, which was our worst ever races, that might have been off the back of the race where I collapsed and I'd written the season off. I think that was 2014, 2015. So I was in a bit of a bad place with my running, to be honest. And I think that's why I decided to go to America in the end, because I just wanted a bit of a change of scene. It felt like things were really stalling for me. But anyway, this is where the interesting part of the story starts. So Josh had decided that he was going to do his biggest challenge ever, which was, and let me get the name right for this, it was Dean Karnazes, or Karnazes. He had the world record for the most miles ran without the aid of sleep. And at the time, that was 350 miles. And he set that record in October 2005 in Northern California. And this was the record that Josh wanted to break, which was to run without sleep for basically as long as possible, his attempt was 355 miles. He was building a bit of a name for himself in the sort of local press. He had thousands of pounds worth of sponsors all sponsoring him for this. And he was going to run from Inverness in Scotland all the way back to Preston over 4 days with no sleep. And, we were chatting about this, and I'd see him doing his training. He used to run like marathons to and from work just to get that mileage in. So it was impressive to see. That was about as far as it went. I knew he was going to do this challenge, and I wished him well. It wasn't until a couple of weeks before the event, he'd built up his team of nutritionists, of videographers, I think running friends from the army and ultra running experts potentially, and to be part of his team. But it wasn't until 2 weeks before the race, he decided to ask me to be part of his team. And as a 20-year-old, I was like, oh, yeah, I would love this. And the reason that he asked me to be on the team was probably because we'd become friends and, he respected me a little bit. But also, I was studying journalism, or I'd just finished studying journalism as an undergraduate at Salford Uni. I regret studying journalism, but that's another story for another day. But he said, well, why don't you come on board and contact local press stations as we move through the towns and tweet for me, Twitter was quite big 10 years ago, weren't it? I mean, it's just come back full circle now, but Twitter was a big thing. So could you tweet as we get to each area with a hashtag of what was being used by the sponsors, and get in touch with local press, papers, keep people updated on the social media side of it. So I was absolutely over the moon with this. It came at the right time for me because I was twiddling my thumbs with the running. It wasn't going well. So I absolutely accepted to be part of his challenge. Now, I remember at the time working with Josh, he'd said that this was a big thing for him. He said this could open so many doors for him if he was to successfully beat this challenge. As I said, this challenge has stood since 2005 by quite a well-renowned ultramarathon runner at the time. This was a big deal for him. And to be part of that, it was really exciting, and I couldn't wait to be part of it. We made that trip down to Inverness. Obviously, we had to start the challenge in Inverness. And I went down with a guy called Davy Jones. I still have him on Facebook now. In fact, I spoke to him just the other day and said, what do you reckon to me making this video? And he agreed it's a great story to tell. Now, I can't quite remember what Davy's job was as part of the team, but I know he had a drone. I think he was into his tech and his cameras, and I know he was a DJ as well, but obviously that's not going to be helpful on an endurance challenge, is it? We drove all the way down to Inverness and met the people that were on the team. I knew the nutritionist because he worked in the gym at the David Lloyd gym at the time, and it was just really exciting. Now, as a 20-year-old, I didn't want to get in Josh's way. There was a big team around him. Obviously, it was really important to get all the right fueling on board, to everything to be perfect. Taking on a challenge like that, it's going to near on kill you, isn't it? So everything had to be in order. So I tried to keep out of Josh's way a little bit, to be honest, and just stuck with this Dave guy who, I don't know what age he was, but we were just worlds apart in experience and stuff like that. But we got on very well, and it was nice. So I remember us getting down to Inverness, and we stayed over the night before the big challenge was about to take place. And I just remember feeling so excited about it, so intrigued. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I don't think anybody did. I remember buying a little rubbish laptop as well, and buying one of those internet dongles in the middle of Inverness. But yeah, the challenge started. Everyone was excited. Me and Davey were in a car together, and we were following round. I think we were a little bit ahead of them, because obviously we were having to let people know ahead of time where he was up to. So I remember waiting for him to come past whilst the rest of the team helped him. So me and Davey had a lot of spare time, chatting, getting to know each other. Obviously the tracker was live. I'm tweeting things. I'm trying to get in touch with people. People are ringing me on my phone. Everything was going really well at the start. We were taking videos, even coming past, we were getting thumbs up. Everyone was smiling. You know, the nutrition was going in at the right times. It was all working like clockwork. And we started this challenge at 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. on day one. Let's say it was the Monday, and everything was going well. Things were ticking along nicely. But then there was a turn. I remember the first day being really blisteringly hot. We'd have a contact on the mobile with the team, or they had a walkie-talkie or something. I can't quite remember. And we were starting to approach night one. I hadn't had any sleep at this point. It was just, the day was just moving as it should. But then the weather started to take a really dramatic turn in that first day. Bearing in mind that this was going to take place over 4 days. We're only into day one. You know, we're in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and the weather's starting to change. But there's no panic, there's no alarm at this point. Everything's going well. Now, looking back on this, because I've obviously been doing research around this to familiarise myself with the challenge, Josh was only 28 when he did this. He seemed a lot older at the time, but 28 to take on such a challenge like that, I couldn't quite believe it really when I was doing my research today. But yeah, we're coming towards the end of day one. We're getting into the night of day one now. People are starting to get a little bit tired already. You know, we've been full on all day, whizzing around in this car, doing all our bits and bats. Obviously not as exhausting as what it would be to actually be constantly running, but Inverness was not a flat place either, so it wasn't like this guy was just running on a flat surface all the way. It was constant up and downs for him and relentless terrain really. But there was no cause for alarm at this point. It was just, we were just doing our thing, but starting to get a little bit tired really. And then the night sets in. And not only does the night set in, I mean, imagine how lonely that would be, just running constantly throughout the night for 4 nights straight, but actually the fact that it started to relentlessly chuck it down with rain. It was getting really, really cold. And all of a sudden, people were getting a little bit more panicky about whether or not we could survive the night. It was getting that treacherous out there. I remember me and Dave just pulled up in a random lay-by, and we tried to get a couple of hours sleep or a couple of hours relaxing time. And we'd been told that our job for the day was done. We could relax. So I remember in the middle of nowhere with this random bloke talking about life, and then we just kick the chairs back and try to have a bit of sleep. But the adrenaline was still pumping with that. You're really interested to see how he was constantly doing all the time on the tracker and making sure that everything was all right for him. So it was quite hard to actually sleep and take some time out. And we would be getting updates constantly come through from the team as well. So it was quite hard to actually settle down and relax. So we ended up just staying up the whole night, just chatting. And this is where it took a bit of a slippery turn. I think the nutritionist was probably getting tired. The team were probably getting tired as well. They hadn't trained for this. They hadn't had sleep for near enough 24 hours at this point. So I think everyone was getting a little bit low. You could feel the momentum shifting a little bit. 20-year-old me sat there. We get a call come through to say, Josh wants you to run with him, Luke. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, she's just asked if you can run with him. I think he's struggling at the minute, and he just wants a familiar face to talk to. And I felt like, bloody hell, got all these sponsors that are, part of this, a lot riding on it for Josh, really. I was like, okay, if you want me to. So I put my running kit on. It's absolutely bucketing it down. I find Josh, and he doesn't look like he's in the best of ways, I'll be honest. I run alongside him. I'm a bit keen and probably run a little bit too fast, considering that this guy's trying to run for 4 days and I'm like Mr. 1500 metre runner, It's a bit of a make or break moment for me, that, because what do you say to somebody that's been running for 24 hours, that's getting a bit delirious, that's struggling already with another 3 days to come? And all of a sudden it was just me and Josh in this pouring rain, and we could have been anywhere in the world. And he's really suffering. He's getting that tired now that he's asking if he can hold on to my rucksack and have a sleep on the back of me whilst I'd run and drag him along. It was getting that knackering for him. And we must have only been, I say only, but like 60, 70 miles, 20 hours in. He had a long, long way to go to reach that 355-mile record. I'm just racking my brain. I'm panicking a bit, thinking of things to say to keep him going, to make him laugh, if that's what he needs. I can't even remember what I said, to be honest. I think I probably had a laugh about, what we'd be doing now if we were in work together. I think I might have chatted about football or something just to keep him going. But as a 20-year-old lad, that felt like a lot of pressure on my shoulders to keep him going when the rest of the team were flagging. But I think he appreciated it, and I ran with him for, I don't know how long, I'd say between 8 to 10 miles we ran. Yeah, I got him through it. We had some laughs. I kept checking if he was all right, if he needed anything, if he wanted to have a sleep on me, then just let me know, is everything comfortable for you? It was just a very surreal experience and something that I would never experience again. By the time we'd got to a certain checkpoint and he was stopping for a little bit of food and a toilet break or whatever, it changed over and somebody else took over. And I went back to the car with Davey sat in there waiting for me. I was just like, that was just a really just surreal experience, that. He's struggling, but I hope he's all right. Me and Davey sat up and chatted for the rest of the night. We're talking about what's to come in the next day, a full 24 hours more of this, and we're only at the halfway stage. And by the end of night one, Josh was 25 miles down on what he should be. I think it had been quite a rough night for him. The weather hadn't helped. And some stomach problems were kicking in for him as well. Whatever he'd eaten in the hotel or in the build-up just wasn't sitting right with him, and he was really struggling. He was having to stop to go to the toilet every 10 minutes. It was taking a turn, but we were rooting for him. We were asking him if he's all right, and he's determined. This is make or break for this guy. He wants this so badly, and he's going to keep going, so we keep going with him. Now, bearing in mind, I've not had any sleep now for a good 24 hours. We're getting into like Tuesday morning now. 24 hours has been completed, and, it's 4, 5 a.m., and I'm getting really knackered now. Like when you get deliriously tired, you can sleep anywhere. It doesn't matter where. You're just going to fall asleep. I remember asking Davey or one of the support team, is it all right if I just have 20 minutes in the back of this van, just 20 minutes, and I'll be back on it? Because I was keen as well. I was a young lad. I was keen, and I think some of the crew were quite sort of impressed with how I was helping out where I could. Do you need anything? And all that. I had 20 minutes rest, and as I was sort of in and out of sleep, we get a phone call, me and Davey. Yeah, sorry guys, we're gonna have to pull the plug on this. He's no good. His stomach's shot to bits. He can't continue. And I remember that moment that got that phone call, 24 hours into the whole experience, a quarter of the way down, and I think my initial reaction was gutted, because I was enjoying this. I was enjoying the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of it. 1 minute he's up, then he's down, the weather's down, and that was over now. And we felt like we were just getting into it almost. But at the same time, sort of felt relieved, because I was secretly knackered myself. Part of me was sort of lying there in that 20-minute rest thinking, can I really do this for 4 days? I'm going to have to, it's not me running it, is it, essentially? I just think I was a bit gutted, because it just felt like the action was only just starting, But the challenge was completely pulled, and that was that. So me and Dave were like, shit, it's done. It's finished. Looks like we're just going to have to drive back to Preston, back to where we met at the Tickled Trout in Preston, where we set off on our journey. So off we go. And we're both tired, very tired. We're just going through like what could have happened. Was there anything we could have done any better? Was there anything the team could have done any better? But it's just one of those things. And I'm actually going to read out a statement. I found this on a website. I think it was the Lancashire Telegraph, for what Josh said at the end of his run, just to summarise like what happened for him really in a proper quote. Josh said, "I'd been going well, but by the end of the day, I was 25 miles down on the schedule and not feeling well at all. I had around 10 toilet stops along the way, and my body was rejecting something I'd eaten. It's just one of those things, and you can do all the training, but then your body just doesn't cooperate. Breaking the record would have opened a lot of doors for me. So this is a setback, but it's not going to stop me running or trying to break records again." And this is where the story gets confusing for me, and why I would love to chat to Josh 10 years later, because it seems like everything stopped from then. So we travelled back. To be honest with you, we didn't really hear from Josh again. We didn't really hear from any of the team again. That was that, really. I did get told, and this isn't me talking rubbish, but I did get told that Josh was very impressed with the way I'd handled everything and the way I'd done it. But don't quote me on this, but I think there were some fallouts after about, how things could have been done and mistakes made, and was the team actually prepared. But at the end of the day, if you've got stomach problems, you've got stomach problems. So it was just one of them. But everything stopped. I tried to reach out to Josh and I just didn't get anything back. And I've not heard from Josh now for 10 years. And that's that, really. And what was this magical challenge? And like he said in the quote, it's not going to stop him running or try and breaking records. And I would just love to know what happened. I felt like it really affected him badly, that. And it shouldn't have done. We talk about our worst races and how you just come back from it. I'm just interested to know why he didn't come back or why it affected him so badly. Obviously, it's a big challenge. There was a lot of sponsors, a lot of pressure for him to fail in the first day. It must have been really tough to take. But I was sad to see him not bounce back from that because as far as I'm aware, that was the end of his ultramarathon career, really. He completely stepped away from it after that and completely went into the shadows. He's very much a mythical creature now. I wish him well. I hope he's doing well. And I'd love to speak to him. But that was where the road ended with that, unfortunately. There was no more record attempts to be had. And 10 years later, I've still got lots of unanswered questions as to what happened from there. So maybe Josh will see this one day. Maybe he'll like to reach out and I'd love to get him on and just talk to him about the challenge, about what happened after that. So if this video does find him, the door's always open to come down and have a chat. And I'd love to chat to you in person as well. I just feel like you won't want to be reminded of that somehow. That's my feeling with it. But that's just speculation on my part. So yeah, a crazy experience. An experience I'll likely never experience again. Imagine trying to attempt a record like that, 355 miles of running with no sleep. That record still stands from that American in 2005. With the boom of ultramarathon running now, whilst I'm not massively a fan of the ultra stuff, but I can respect people that push their bodies to the limit. In a world now where everybody seems to want to do ultra marathons, why does this record from 2005 still stand? I'm surprised nobody's had a go at it. If you were part of this experience with me, share your story in the comments. If you've experienced something as crazy as this, if you've attempted a crazy record, I'd love to know your story as well. And I'd love to get somebody on the channel that can tell these stories. And maybe this isn't the end of the story. Maybe one day I will sit down and talk to Josh, and I'd love to just get the rest of that story. What's happened in those 10 years? And is there a way back into the ultra running for him, or is that ship sailed? Thanks for watching. It's the first time I've attempted to try, storytelling. So if I've rambled on, I do apologise. If I've missed any details, then it's just the way it is. I've done this in one sitting, so I've tried my best with it. There's plenty of stories from my 15 years of running that I'd love to sit down and tell you. If you'd like to hear any stories, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you for the next one.